What do we have to look out for the Googles and the Apples and the Amazons and the Microsofts of the world for the next 10 years? I mean, this is obviously one of them. What else comes to mind?
So I don't know how to solve the problems that they're creating. And they are creating some really serious privacy problems and problems of corporate control and data control and surveillance. But I know how to make sure that we can't solve them and how to clear those impediments that keep us from solving them. So laws like the DMCA and Article 6 of the EUCD make it a crime to change devices in ways that protect your privacy or challenge monopolies. Now, if you can protect your privacy, it doesn't mean you will. And if you can challenge monopolies, it doesn't mean you'll be successful. But if it's illegal to do either of those things, you absolutely won't protect your privacy and you absolutely won't be successful in challenging monopolies. So we need to clear that law off the books. And the other thing that we need to clear is something called the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, which also has parallels in the UK. And that's the law under which Aaron Swartz was charged. In 1983, Matthew Broderick made a movie called War Games, where a kid in his bedroom was randomly dialing phone numbers, hacked into the Pentagon, and nearly started World War III and killed everyone alive. And off the back of this, Congress decided that they needed to pass an anti-hacking law, literally to stop real-world Matthew Brodericks from starting World War III. And they created this law called the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. They didn't know how to make it future-proof. They understood that if they prohibited certain kinds of conduct, that conduct would be probably obsolete by the time the ink on the bill was dry because computers would move so fast. And so they took this very broad view of what was hacking. And what they said is, if you exceed your authorization on someone else's computer, you have committed a potential felony. And corporations and prosecutors took the view that your authorization to use another person's computer was the terms of service, the end user license agreement. 35,000 words of boilerplate that no one has ever read in the whole history, including the company, and I'm not making that up. Companies frequently have never read their boilerplate. One of the things that often happens, the first round of the Twitter terms of service described how you could use Flickr. They missed one in their copy and paste, in their search and replace, right? So literally companies have never read their terms of service. They're kind of like self-replicating viruses of dumb law. And yet corporations have taken the view that violating them break the law, and since the conduct that they prohibit is so expansive, you undoubtedly commit multiple felonies every day. And what this means is that corporations become guardians of who gets to talk about and investigate their services. And so Aaron was charged because the terms of service said he couldn't write a script to download these files that he was allowed to see. He could only download them by clicking. And so that became a felony, 13 felonies with 35 years in prison on the slate. And then another security researcher was looking into his AT&T mobile phone account. And he saw that the URL that he loaded when he visited AT&T ended with a number. So he tried changing the number. And he was looking at someone else's banking details, their financial details for their mobile phone bill. All of this personal, private, sensitive information. And he changed the number again, and he was looking at another person's. And he found that millions of people's data had been exposed by AT&T. And when he blew the whistle on them, he was charged with criminal Computer Fraud and Abuse Act violations and put in jail. And it wasn't until Electronic Frontier Foundation, the charity pressure group that I work for part-time, represented him that he was eventually sprung. And so again, if it's against the law to figure out how a service is using your data and to tell people when it has material defects, then we will never be able to solve the problem of companies spying on us or abusing our data or treating our data without sufficient care. I boil these down to two principles. The first one is that anytime someone gives a computer that they own an order, and that some remote party gives a different conflicting order, the person who owns the computer should always win. You should be able to always tell your computer what to do, not anyone else. Not the police, not the government, not a corporation. Not because it wouldn't be useful for the police to tell the computer in your car it's time for you to pull over, but because when we create that facility, that anyone who can successfully impersonate a police officer to your car can carjack you from across the entire internet, or crash your car into the median, or do any of a million other mischievous things. Computers should be designed to be controlled by their owners. And the second rule is that true facts about the security of computers that you depend on should always be lawful to disclose. There should never be a circumstance in which things that would inform how you used a system and whether you trusted it are things that you're not allowed to know. You know, a car that had faulty brakes that you knew about is a car that you can drive to the garage very slowly and carefully, taking only back roads. But a car that has faulty brakes that you don't know about, you will discover those faulty brakes in the hardest way possible on the motorway. So you should be allowed to know about defects in products, even if we don't know how to fix those defects, because it'll help you govern your own conduct so that you don't get into trouble, so that you can cabin off the trouble that that insecure system can make. And so I think that there will be people out there who will have lots of great ideas about how to solve it. Good laws that we could pass, political movements, ways to start businesses, ways to educate people and give them good ideas. But none of that stuff is going to matter if it's against the law to reconfigure your devices and against the law to tell you about defects in your devices.
Continue watching this fascinating conversation for free by clicking on the link below to visit our website, learn from the best minds in the world, and connect with a community of passionate people building the best versions of themselves. Just click on the link below, and I'll see you on the inside.